Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Gemini credit card earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card, buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
Issued by WebBank. Some exclusions to instant rewards apply. This is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risk. Check Gemini's website for more details on rates and fees.
Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of online social games like blackjack, slots, and solitaire. Anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. T&Cs apply.
Super Bowl week is finally here, and the call has got you covered, Sessy.
Foot on the gas, Danny boy.
Oh, yes. Coverage of the Seahawks, the Patriots, the media, all our best friends joining the show this week. It's going to be a fun one. Get ready to buckle up and heed the call. Hey-o, welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. Super Bowl week. We can say Super Bowl again. Awooga. Oh, no. I said awooga at the top.
Wow.
Too late to start again. Dan Hanzus is here. Marc Sessler, Conor Orr from San Francisco. Justin Graver on the ones and twos. As always, I mean, pretty good weekend. Our first weekend off, or at least a Sunday off since Labor Day weekend. None of us showed up in the latest release of the Epstein files, so pretty good, Mark. Pretty well. Did we double check? Did we do a little Sessler find and replace real quick? Mark, you're good? You're clear?
It is an absurdity that you would suggest that I would appear in that
Steve
document.
Tisch is in it, the Giants, the Tiffany franchise. There's some reports that a certain quarterback connected to the Giants also showed up. I don't know if that is on solid ground, Connor?
I think he just tried to purchase the jet. And this was after,
he being
Russell Wilson.
Right. No island activity.
But it was
Russell
after
Wilson.
his passing, and
That's
the
important.
retweet of his mention in the files was hilarious. It just said, "Not today, Satan," in all caps, Russell Wilson. So that was that's one way to deny your emergence in the files.
But Justin, quick search, all our names. Just let's make sure we're all clear before we mock
exactly.
Steve Tisch
There
and
might
anyone
be
else.
a surprise Hanzus mention.
But you feel good, Mark. You feel good about the
I
weekend.
feel better than good because it's not even a playful suggestion. I do not operate that way.
No, I was more meaning like having a Sunday off, no game. But
oh, yes.
Yeah, also the files.
I would say very weird, wasn't it? Like it felt like you've got this natural ingrained physical biorhythm when you're 24 weeks into this Sunday thing, and was like, what do I do with myself today? Mm-hmm. I found something though. Don't you worry.
No, I'm going to say, because this is the new angle of the show. We're digging into Mark's personal life. What did you do?
Well,
no,
there's a hotel across the street that I love to go over to and read in the morning, and watched a couple movies. I've been catching up on all the Oscar movies.
This feels very sanitized, but go on.
No, it really was that, because I slept for 2 hours at one point. I kind of wanted to do literally nothing.
Naps, man. People
but
sleep on naps.
I know you probably think I'm leaving out some sort of Titanic middle activity,
definitely.
And I'm just suggesting it's not always there.
But that's well within your rights not to share whatever the middle portion of the
Well, I'm preparing
day
for
was.
this very important.
This is important. It's a big week. It's Super Bowl week. And it started, Connor, you're already there this morning. A 4.3 magnitude earthquake rocked San Francisco at 7:01 a.m., according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Did you feel any of that shit?
I was on the Peloton, baby. So I was grinding, had to get my workout in, and it's not the Peloton here at the gym is not bolted into the floor. And so was there an earthquake? Was I just standing up like a little too fast on the bike and felt a wobble? I'm not sure. I can't be certain.
I think we do. We also have to, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Mark, here with Connor. Anytime he's from a hotel room, there always seems to be a cuck chair behind him. Is it one that Conor specifically requests, or is it just an ongoing coincidence? In the corner of that room, looks like a maroon, very clearly a cuck chair.
There's two of them.
Whoa!
Now we're diving into the real substance of the Q&A.
Are we sure about these files? We're not in them in any way? Go ahead.
They look freshly vacuumed, which is a relief, honestly. I mean, just based on what could have taken place here in these chairs.
Why do we assume when Conor says, like, oh, what have you gotten up to, Conor? Like, oh, I just went and did Peloton. Like, you're free from any family responsibility in a vibrant San Francisco burg, like, and you just did an unspooled bike in the gym floor, like you've done nothing else.
I did everything. So, kind of a peek into my schedule and my world. Like tonight is going to be opening night at the Super Bowl.
Nightmare.
So 5:00, everything kind of gets going. So I had a classic kind of Conor alone dad morning. I did the Peloton. I met up with the Super Bowl running group, started a running club at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and we ran to the Golden Gate Bridge. It was beautiful, scenic, and then came back and just had breakfast alone, avocado toast across the street from the hotel. So I'm flying right now, man.
You're
a pure person.
I was going to say, Mark, I believe all that, and I don't believe there to be a gap in the timeline. And I can't say the same about your Sunday.
I know you can't, but like...
Anyway, coming up on today's show, we're going to give you 3 shows leading up to the game, and then we're going to be live Sunday night immediately after Super Bowl 60, Seahawks, Patriots. And also we're going to end that episode with Gravy's live wrap of the season. So it's a big week, and we're excited to get into it all. Today we're going to have Michael-Shawn-Dugar, our old buddy. Funny how it works out. On the maiden season of Heed the Call, Money Mike was a weekly guest, and now, a year later, his team, in the city where he grew up, the region he grew up, they're back in the Super Bowl, and he'll be covering it for The Athletic. We're going to talk to him about the Seahawks sides of things. We're also going to have Andrew Marchand, also of The Athletic, who covers the media landscape better than anyone in the industry, talking about the booths and everything that's happening in and around the media side of the game. But before that, we do some news.
I just was never to one like that, where it was so exaggerated. The bulbousness of the buttocks, sometimes matched by a voluptuousness of the chestal region. Yes,
big ass.
I think.
God.
What are we doing?
Listen, 11 years ago, Marshawn Lynch was at the goal line. Seahawks, Patriots. And now it's Bill Maher, very uncomfortable, trying to be cool in front of Marshawn Lynch, and it goes terribly wrong.
It did go wrong. You've not seen anything or done anything that Marshawn Lynch has not done, unless he was describing Conor's Golden Gate running group. I don't know what.
Yeah. What did Lynch? I think he tagged that conversation. You have that, Justin?
Shit, it sound like you was in over your head.
Man, they should have given him the ball. Yes, Malcolm Butler, Super Bowl 49. We were there. The play that reverberates for both these organizations all these years later, Ceci.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing. I'd watched the end of that game yesterday. It was on television, kind of wild. That was one of the most insane Super Bowls. I'll just never forget this moment where when Bill Belichick came out of the tunnel, and obviously that was a week of controversy and Patriots' anger and hatred was at its peak, I thought. And Belichick comes out with the hoodie in full effect, shadowing his face, and the place was unfiltered hatred for this human being. What was weird, in my memory, was then Brady, and this was a 50-50 split crowd, if I recall correctly, to some degree. Like, Brady comes out next, and the place goes absolutely nuts. I have never heard a stadium louder. And I wouldn't say that about that Arizona stadium typically, but I've never heard one louder. And it was this moment sealed in my mind till I'm 98 years old. It's the Super Bowl memory I remember the most. And it wasn't even the game itself.
We went to 11 or 12 of those games at NFL Media. And one day when we're, deep in the final act of our lives, it is cool to be able to look back and be like, we were there for Brady's apex, and we were there for 28-3. We were there for that Seattle game and his last Super Bowl win with the Patriots. Like that that he was like Brady was the rock star. And we're going to talk about Brady with Marchand later. Marchand wrote a piece about Tom Brady and the leap he's made in year 2 as an announcer. And at one point in the article, it just kind of states matter-of-factly, like when he uses the restroom at halftime when he's calling a game, they have to send security with him because he's that big a star. So, yes, I remember those days very well. I also remember after that Super Bowl blowout of the year before when the Seahawks trashed the Broncos and Peyton Manning going down to the locker room, the Seahawks locker room after the game, and Marshawn Lynch had a boombox like blasting like Bay Area hip hop at full blast, just dancing by himself, like, and everyone just kind of used to it because Marshawn Lynch was that crazy a character. Anyway,
you know who else helped us out in that Super Bowl milieu? A number of times we'd come back from a very late taping of the show and spread out on a round table with seats for each of us. Conor Orr had brought 40 to 50 beers, and it was like, what a
really prefaced. I remember one year he had like Patron tequila, like we had a whole setup, and I think that like really laid the woodwork or laid the red carpet out for this iteration of our broadcasting career at Heed the Call in a lot of ways. Connor picking up the booze.
It was it was like at the hotel market, and there was only like whatever it was. There's like 14 beers left. It's 2:00 in the morning, and then 2 bottles of Patron, and you just walk up and you say, "I'll take it all," and then we'll figure it out after that. It all. You know what's the worst?
Whole left side of the menu.
Take it all. And then you're like, this is kind of pre-Venmo, so it was more like, all right, we'll make you whole, Connor, and then we all had to do the math. How do we find a way to make the NFL pay for this with expense reporting? And we got it done in the end. All right, real quick, let's go through the news before we bring in Money Mike to talk Seahawks. We'll start real quick. Speaking of Tom Brady, he is obviously a big voice for the Las Vegas Raiders now as a minority owner. He gets his man. They intend to hire Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak as the new head coach. Of course, this cannot happen till after the Super Bowl, and it can't be finalized till then, but it looks like it was coming down to Cardinals and Raiders. They both wanted Kubiak. This time, Brady gets his man. You'll remember, notably, last year, he did not get his man when Ben Johnson went from Detroit to Chicago. This time he gets an offensive play caller of high regard in a big spot. So that's going to happen. And as a connecting move, the Cardinals then pivoted and they hire Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, also known as MILF. He's the new head coach, 5-year contract. A spinoff of that is Rams passing game coordinator Nate Shieldhouse, expected to become the OC of the Rams. So he was in a lot of talks to be a head coach. He doesn't get one of the big chairs. They're all filled now, but he does move up the pecking order there. Connor, your thoughts on both these moves?
So I released my coach carousel grades and rankings, so you can go read those at si.com today, right now as we speak. And I was more complimentary of the Raiders and Brady than I thought I was going to, because Kubiak, I was told, kind of went into this process asking all the right questions about, how is this going to work? I mean, how involved are you going to be? And I think it's kind of an eyes wide open situation. But I think the reason why. And every year, your top premier play caller just gets automatically plucked off the top of the market, and he's that lead candidate. And I think Kubiak is just a little more mild-mannered, personally. And so I think a lot of people wondered, can he lead a room? Is he the kind of guy that can galvanize a franchise? And I'll say this twofold. First, the same people are wondering the same thing about Mike Macdonald. This is a guy who's short of stature. He's a little bit quieter. He comes from the back of the film room. Is he going to be able to command a team? Clearly. And the other thing about Kubiak is, and I talked to some coaches on the staff with them, is they said, like, game day, that guy's an animal, like a rabid dog. And so he's so fun to be around and so exciting to be around. He's got another side to him that the public hasn't seen. So I think this is a slam dunk hire. I think I gave that and they were one of my top 3 hires of the cycle. I really thought that the Raiders did a good job here.
I think you come in also with like lower expectations after seasons of disaster. You're there to groom the number 1 pick, which will be Fernando Mendoza, barring something stunning. And you've got an ownership group, which is Mark Davis, that fired Josh McDaniels after about 5 minutes, had Antonio Pierce there for 1 year, and Pete Carroll there for 1 year. You've got to imagine that Kubiak has a longer runway, because no matter what or how rich you are, and Mark Davis is not one of the richest owners, you can't keep paying these salaries after one season. Like, you got to stop. I think if you're Tom Brady too, you got to stop that carousel and get this thing under control. Coach, quarterback, it's the method. It's the formula.
Yeah, this makes a lot more sense, pairing a on-the-rise coordinator, Kubiak, with a 22-year-old number 1 overall pick, Mendoza. You look at, again, last year, which was clearly not Brady's number 1 plan for a choice, but it was 34-year-old Geno Smith with 74-year-old Pete Carroll. Who knows if the Raiders will actually finally start to figure it out? It's been decades since they have, but this feels like solid footing to start. Anything on the LaFleur side of it, Connor?
So here's what I had that as my last ranked hire, and the reason that I don't love this, and I'm going to ruffle your feathers a little bit, Dan, and say that I think in hindsight, he's been one of the better play callers that the Jets have had offensively. They were actually a top 15 team in rushing.
The bar is
success
extremely
rate.
low, but go on.
The bar
there
is
is no
extremely
bar.
Low.
Yeah.
But the reason that I didn't like this Cardinals hire is not because of Mike. I think Mike is a fine coach, and I think he might be okay. But Arizona needs to understand itself enough to know that your candidate is going to have to overcome ownership. Right. And that's a really hard thing for a first-time head coach to do, a guy who wasn't even a play-calling coordinator with the Rams. And they were down the road with Raheem Morris. They had some deep talks with Vance Joseph. I thought those guys would have been a better option for them. Guys who have had on-the-job experience, guys who have been through the rigors of it, who have worked for bad owners, all that kind of stuff, had been in shitty situations. Because, I mean, LaFleur's going into it, man. I mean, this is not a roster with a rip-and-pull quarterback. You know, you've got some underperforming talent there, and it's the best division in football. I just think you're putting him in a really, really difficult spot.
He's just like taking over the last regime's problems.
Right.
I don't like that. And like, I guess with Mike LaFleur, I don't know. You would know better if you talk to him a bunch. Like, I guess he's a LaFleur, but like, I don't see a ton that suggests like he is an overt next head coach candidate. Prove me wrong, but it's just like Cardinals paired with when they got Bruce Arians, and it wasn't a sexy hire, but he's exactly what you're talking about. Guy's been around the block 400 times. He's seen everything. Mike LaFleur is walking into war for the first time as a head coach.
I hate to be negative about this stuff, but it's why I'm critical of my own team. It's why I have doubts about what's going to happen with the Browns this year with their new coach. Cardinals, same thing. The teams that aren't run well tend to not hire the right people. But Mike LaFleur can only take advantage of this opportunity, and hopefully he gets a chance and isn't just surrounded by dysfunction and no quarterback. But these are all things to be concerned with. By the way, the 49ers hire former Falcons head coach Raheem Morris as their new DC. Robert Saleh, of course, with Ole Strunko in Tennessee now. The Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham, he gets a promotion. He's the new Falcons general manager, but he will be behind Matt Ryan in the org chart. So just keep that in mind. Speaking of organizations I don't necessarily trust, can Matt Ryan pull the right levers in Atlanta? We're going to start finding out with free agency and the upcoming draft class. And finally in the news, this one was something that went down, and it's funny. I've never seen something reported as like, oh, everyone knew this was coming. And also, oh, what a shock at the same time that the Vikings fired general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He just received an extension last offseason, 43-25 over his 4 seasons. The article that just came out, Alex Lewis and Diana Rossini, check that out if you want to get into like how the sausage gets made for an organization and the doubts that were around Adofo-Mensah from the very beginning about his background as like a Wall Street mover and shaker, but not necessarily the pelts on the wall, catching some heat because he took a full 2-week paternity leave after his child was born. But also, first and foremost, and you heard me and others out there, mostly after me, talk about how badly the Vikings had botched their quarterback situation, not just the decision on Darnold, but also the plan behind J.J. McCarthy. That, I think, got that in addition to Mark, Darnold going on this playoff run because Adofo-Mensah survives the initial end-of-season firing cycle. Darnold carries the Seahawks to the Super Bowl on NFC Championship Sunday, and then the GM of the Vikings is gone a few days later. Did you put that together as well as maybe the thing that pushed him off the ledge.
Yeah, I think the timing is part of this, because on the Athletic, there's an article that says, to your point, inside the stunning dismissal of Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, then in quotes, this is wild, but then the contents of that and many other articles is like, all these people saw it coming. No one reported it 2 weeks ago. It wasn't like Mike Sando did talk about it. It was out there, but I think if you go back a year to now, it is stunning to find out that like inside the organization, there was a question. I think he had like 28 of his draft picks, like 4 are actually future starters. Like there's the Sam Darnold of it all. There's them questioning inside the building if he has a ceiling. But I think the timing of it is what kind of threw everyone off. Like the draft's just about to happen at some point here. If Sam Darnold fizzled out 3 weeks ago, like, does this happen? I just wonder if it happens, because did that add a massive exclamation point to it all?
There's Darnold, and I think the most damning stat was like 4 out of your 26 draft picks are going to end up being some degree of a starter for you. I mean, there are guys that just came and went without a whisper that have been drafted by him since 2022, and you can't function that way as a general manager. You just can't.
His initial drafts, to that stat, were really poor, and there was so much doubt and disconnect between the coaching staff and the front office that you saw KOC like sent like almost his entire coaching staff to the Senior Bowl in recent seasons. That was kind of undermining potentially the idea that the guy in the front office was the one who should be in charge of figure out who they take. So you had that. I also, one last note before we take a break and bring in Michael-Shawn-Dugar. This note, and we had heard this, we've heard whispers around J.J. McCarthy, but I'll read this from that Athletic piece. A torn meniscus in his right knee, which McCarthy suffered in August 2024 and forced him to miss his entire rookie season, had been a, quote, immense challenge mentally, close quote, and many team sources questioned his ability to lead an organization that would have high expectations. So there were a lot of questions around McCarthy, not just physically, it sounds like, but like whether he had the stuff to be a leader and a successful NFL quarterback, and yet they went into the season the way they did eventually with Carson Wentz behind McCarthy, and then, catastrophe ensued. So, interesting story there, and the Vikings have an interim in place right now, and we'll see where they go. But firing your GM in late January with everything that's happening in the NFL calendar, that's a challenge for an organization looking to get off the mat. And they also should have signed Aaron Rodgers. And that was in that piece as well. Like a lot of head scratching inside that building, including amongst players. Why didn't we get Aaron Rodgers when he was there for the taking? Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we get back, Money Mike Dugar. Whenever I'm traveling with other people, I almost always book a stay on Airbnb because it just makes the whole trip better. Recently, we took a trip with the family, and instead of squeezing into a hotel, we stayed in a home on Airbnb, right in a local neighborhood. We had actual space, multiple bedrooms, a living room to hang out in, and a full kitchen where we made breakfast together before heading out for the day.
Yep, that's the big difference for me. When you book with Airbnb, you're not just sleeping somewhere, you're staying somewhere. You got more privacy, more room, and a place that feels lived in. Plus, being in a neighborhood instead of a tourist zone made the trip feel more authentic, like we were getting a real sense for the city, Dan.
That's right, Mark. On my trip, we even booked a guest favorite, the most loved homes on Airbnb. That's how I roll, and marked with a badge for their top ratings. And that experience completely lived up to the expectations. Everyone could relax, spread out, and actually enjoy the trip. And I have to say, when you have the kids with you, as I do, Airbnb is a must over a hotel, because in an Airbnb, the kids' bedtime doesn't have to be your bedtime.
Yeah, whether it's friends, family, or a group getaway, having a home-like place just makes everything easier and a lot more memorable. Book your next stay with Airbnb.
When we started this podcast, it felt like we had to figure out everything out on our own. Scripts, setup, logo, scheduling, and a million other little decisions that kept piling up every day. It was a little bit overwhelming, and honestly, it felt a bit lonely wearing all these hats at once. That's why having Shopify as a business partner makes such a difference.
Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. From household names to brands just getting off the ground, you can get started with your own design studio, choosing from hundreds of ready-to-use templates to build a beautiful online store that matches your brand perfectly.
That's right, Mark. And when it comes to efficiency, Shopify has helpful AI tools that can write product descriptions, create page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Need to get the word out? Shopify makes it easy to launch email and social media campaigns like you have a full marketing team behind you. And if you ever get stuck, their award-winning 24/7 support is always there to help.
Yeah, with everything from inventory to payments to analytics, all in one place, running your business has never been smoother.
So start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/HTC. Go to shopify.com/HTC. That's shopify.com/HTC. All right, we are back with one of our favorite people. He's an OG of Heed the Call, and now he is in the Bay Area covering the team. He grew up following, you know who we're talking about, Money Mike, Michael-Shawn of The Athletic. Welcome back, buddy.
Oh, man, I'm happy to be on with you guys, man. My whole, the last, 5 days is I'm getting texts that start with, hey, Mike, I'm the producer for ... And it's just like, which I get it, right? It's a Super Bowl. Not that many people cover the Seahawks, so everyone's looking for some insight. My number is it's easy to get, apparently. But I've been trying to prioritize people that I rock with, people that I know, so all day Monday, I've just been doing shows with the homies, and this is one of them.
I appreciate you, buddy. And like you're Gen Alpha or whatever. You're much younger than us. I don't know where you qualify.
He's not Gen Alpha.
He's a young man.
I think I'm just a millennial, I think.
Are you?
I'm born in 92.
Millennial. Take us through it. Like, now you're obviously a big shot reporter covering the Seahawks. But when the back-to-back Super Bowl appearances for the Seahawks happened, where were you in your life? Was that college days? Was that when was that? And take us through what it's like to be in that place as a fan back then to be where you are now.
Yeah, so when they won the Super Bowl in February of 2014, I was about to graduate from Washington State, and I was the sports editor of the student newspaper, the Daily Evergreen. And then when they lost the Super Bowl the next year, I was still the sports editor, but I had graduated, and I was covering the University of Idaho and Washington State athletics for the Moscow Pullman Daily News. So I was in the professional world, I guess. So I didn't actually get to feel the gravity of the wins because everyone was back home celebrating. I'm seeing all these pictures back then on Snapchat from the parade. I was like, dang, that sucks. I can't be there. But it was just really cool you could feel the vibe in the city though, even though I was living in Pullman and working in Idaho. And that was also at the time where I would always get mistaken for Richard Sherman. He was he was legitimately a superstar. He was one of the few NFL people that could get recognized without his helmet on, which is pretty rare for any NFL player, let alone a non-quarterback.
I mean, it was that post-game interview with Andrews that kind of changed his celebrity in a lot of ways.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, tons of ways. He legitimately became a superstar that night. For my book that I wrote on the Legion of Boom era Seahawks, I went back and found Twitter in that moment, it took me a while to figure out how to do that, but I did. And it was there's some terrible stuff that was being said about Sherm at the time, but the number of celebrities that were weighing in on that clearly don't watch much football, but were watching that day because it was the NFC Championship was crazy. They became legitimately ubiquitous. The Legion of Boom did, headlined by Richard Sherman. That just felt kind of cool because Seattle's not that market. We're not LA, not New York, or some of these other big markets where just when a player shows up there, they're famous. No, you got to earn your fame if you're going to play for the Seattle Seahawks or the Seattle Mariners or whoever. And the Legion of Boom earned that, and it kind of felt like the whole city was on the national map because of that.
I was going to ask you because this team is a little obviously different than that whole situation in terms of it. This has happened so quickly. For you as you've got your Seahawks fandom along with your reporting, but for the city, is there an element of whoa, we're suddenly back here? This happened so rapidly. It wasn't one of these 5-year methodical rebuilds. It's a year ago that you feel like the Seahawks had issues, and now it's bang, they look like an absolute powerhouse. It happened rapidly.
Yeah, Pete Carroll getting fired and then replacing him with Mike Macdonald was a reminder that NFL coaches generally aren't celebrities. They aren't that famous. Even if you're a big deal and your NFL team is the big deal in your city, they all just regular looking cats, don't have super big personalities. Like Pete Carroll was legitimately a celebrity. So he galvanized the casual fan in Seattle and the state of Washington in a way that Mike Macdonald does not. So they hired him. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we got this new guy. Not a lot of people were watching like the Ravens defense, right? If you live in Seattle, so you don't really know much about him. So he doesn't really move the needle to the casual observer until you go win games. So I don't even think it was probably till midway this year, right when the Seahawks dominance coincided with the Mariners' potential run to the World Series. The worlds kind of overlapped there in October for a bit. That's when it was like, wait, all of our teams are good now. This is great. Like we got Mike Macdonald and we got Jackson Smith and Jigba and we got Dan managing the Mariners. And then now we got Julio and Big Dumper was like a big thing. Another guy who earned his fame, in a different sport.
How about the Seattle Kraken, Mike? You got any takes on that?
No, the Kraken came out hot. I think we made a deep playoff run like year 2, I think. And then that has dropped off, but the ticket prices have not, which is interesting. But anyway, I think Mike Macdonald's kind of mystique, I guess, for lack of a better word, is kind of made the team low key. Like he's not famous. There aren't many celebrities on the team. Cause like even with Pete, beyond him, you had Russell, who was legitimately famous. DK Metcalf played in the celebrity game, All-Star Weekend. Like he is legitimately famous. This team does not have that. And when you don't have that, it's hard to bring in people like my mom is the barometer. Like she cares about football, but she can't name more than like 5 players in any given year. When she's locked in, that lets you know that something different is going on, in the NFL world and with the Seahawks. So yeah, I think around, again, when the Seahawks and Mariners kind of overlapped there, game 7 of the ALCS was the same day that the Seahawks beat the Texans on Monday Night Football. That was like a super buzzy day for the city. And that day, obviously the Mariners lost. But then that was like, okay, now it's Seahawks time now. I believe that was week 7. And since then, you kind of see the shift like, okay, everyone's locked in now on the Seahawks potentially making a run back to the Super Bowl. And yeah, here we are.
One of the coolest gigs I ever had during our NFL media days was they sent me to Seattle to cover the first game after they won the Super Bowl title. It was a Thursday night opener against the Packers. And I remember just like never being in such a city that was so electrically plugged in to a team where everyone was wearing the jerseys. And this was for days ahead of the event. And then the game happens and I'm being on the field and be like, I've never been in a louder stadium. It really is it's a great sports city. I want to talk about, Mike, something last time you were on the show, it was around midseason. And we had a really good conversation about when you looked at like the landscape of title contenders, and you had a fairly iconic quote in our show because we used it as part of a package for the rest of the season, in which you said, do you have that, Justin?
How fatal are your warts?
You said, how fatal are your warts?
How fatal are your warts?
Yes. And for the Seahawks, I feel like at the time, it would be easy to deduce, maybe it's Sam Darnold. Maybe he's the wart that, and then something crazy happened on NFC Championship Sunday, Mike. The Seahawks defense wasn't having a great night. And the running game wasn't quite getting going with Charbonnet out of the lineup. And then here was this man, Sam Darnold, who stepped up and played the game of his life and put that team on his back to get to Santa Clara on Sunday. So I have to ask you 2 questions.
Sam Darnold.
Were you surprised that you got that performance from Sammy Darnold? And 2, are you next to me in the Darnold Hive now? Let's go, baby. Money Mike. Finally.
Yeah.
Are you in?
Shout out to Sam Darnold, affectionately known as Ginger Cuz, according to Marshawn Lynch. He got that nickname after they clinched the #1 seed in Week 18. He said, he shouted out the entire team and then said, and Ginger Cuz. And that's just
Ginger
like the greatest nickname, Ginger Cuz. I was super surprised that they won a game they won the NFC Championship because of Sam Darnold. That's just not a sentence I think anyone, even if you're just like, right, you've been in the Hive for a while, the Sam Darnold Hive, to say a team won the NFC Championship because of what Sam Darnold did, that's pretty nuts. And it was against, as the NFC Championship game tends to be, against a very good team. The Rams were damn good. Their secondary talked a lot of shit heading up to that game. Cam Crow was like, yeah, we're still in his head from the last few times we played him. And I understand why they were so confident. They had been. They sacked him 9 times in the wild card round last year. They picked him off 6 times in the 2 regular season games. So I get why they were like, yeah, we can get to Sam Darnold. So I was very surprised to see him basically shut those guys up with the best performance of his life, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, an amazing 4-minute drive at the end, which didn't end in points, but basically salted the game away, basically playing keep away from Matthew Stafford, who was on a heater. So yeah, I was very surprised. And that game, I think, is what I'm right outside the door of the Hive. Like I have my hands in my pockets, like looking for my wallet to pull out, because the bouncer's like, "Hey, we need your ID." I'm like right there. I'm about to hand him my ID, and I'm about to get the pat down, because I imagine this Sam Darnold Hive is in a very rowdy neighborhood where they pat people down before they come in. So I'm right there. I just need him to just be himself. Because that's the thing about Sam, though, that I think he has earned that we no longer need to be like, he'll become Sam Darnold again in reference to Carolina or New York. Like there's very clearly another Sam that exists that maybe is not the NFC Championship guy, but is also not Week 18 against the Lions guy. He's just not that. He exists in this place between NFC Championship and seeing ghosts, And I think a lot of people, myself included, we're always seeing him in eventually he'll just see ghosts again. No, he doesn't see them anymore. Like if he does see them, he knows how to make them go away, which is perhaps a more important superpower that he's developed. So I'm not quite in there yet, but I'm right there with my ID out, waiting to get into the Hive.
It's getting crowded in there, but I have kept a spot for you behind the velvet ropes. You don't even have to go through like the metal detectors, the optical scans. We have like a little side door that maybe you could join us on Super Bowl Sunday night.
I'll do it. I'll be right there with you. If he can get this done, I'll be right there, because at that point, there really is not much to say negative about Sam anyway. But still, this is another big game. Like, you can't play bad in this game, right? Because then that's the last data point anyone has for you for 7-8 months or whatever. But I do think he's going to play well in this game.
We tend to get wildly ahead of ourselves at this time of year, and when the two teams are in the Super Bowl, I think, at least in my side of the business, it's like you narrativize everything that has happened to that point to make the team seem infallible and perfect, and that they were always destined for this moment. But the one thing that I think was incredible about Sam from day one, and I think we could all recognize was good, was the value of the contract. As when you hold it up against all the other quarterbacks on the market. And what's amazing is, like, I don't really care how good or bad he plays. Like, next year you still have like a win with starter for not that much money. And I think that this deal, like, is as pay as you go as it's structured, is like, that's the thing that's going to, I think, has allowed them to do so much this season, will allow them to do so much next season. And I'm just curious, like, how big of a part of it do you think that was, just getting him at the price that they got him at?
Yeah, we were having a planning meeting at The Athletic about, like, what stories should we do? And then someone had mentioned, like, man, what can we learn maybe from the roster construction of the two Super Bowl teams? And the thing that stands out to me is that the Seahawks now, with General Manager John Snyder at the helm since 2010, he's built 3 Super Bowl teams. He's never drafted a quarterback in the first round. He's actually never even drafted a quarterback in the second round.
It's amazing.
He's drafted 3 quarterbacks total, running 16 drafts. Russell Wilson in 2012, Alex Magoo in the 7th round of 2018 draft.
Oh,
That's a fun trivia night question for you. And then Jalen Milroe last year with the 3rd round pick that they got in the Geno Smith trade. Right. So that at this time now where we're like, all right, you gotta be like in the top 10 or whatever to draft the guy of the future for your franchise, or you gotta at least use a 1st round pick for him. We have all this data about how 1st round picks succeed at a much higher rate than quarterbacks taken in literally every other round. And we have a really large sample now with the new CBA to come to a conclusion. Well, then there's the Seattle Seahawks, right? Like, General Manager John Snyder, he believes in drafting quarterbacks every year, but he just hasn't, and he still found a way to build Super Bowl teams without that. And I think that's a lesson that we can extrapolate maybe and apply to the rest of the league. Is like, all right, maybe you don't pick 8th this year. Maybe you don't pick 14th this year. Think outside the box to get your guy, and maybe make sure your infrastructure is good so that if you do get yourself a Geno or a Jared Goff or a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold, that they don't have to be Superman like we asked these 3rd overall picks to be, like we asked these 2nd overall picks and number 1 overall picks to be. There ain't that many guys who could be Superman in the NFL, even if you're the quote unquote perfect prospect. I think that's something that you can take from the Seahawks strategy and apply here, because that is why they're here, because John's vision is, I can build it around the guy. Like, sure, it's great if I have a 1st round pick. He came from Green Bay, right? He saw what they built when they had 1st round quarterbacks. But he's also like, there's other ways to get it done. And sometimes you got to go an unconventional way, take a gamble on a former Jets quarterback. Maybe that's the market inefficiency that the Seahawks have found. If a guy stinks with the Jets, sign him. and then he'll be good for you. That's not worked out.
That's how we do it. We set people up.
For general manager John Snyder. But I do think that's a big part of why they're where they are, because to allocate those resources to getting either the market resetting contract for a quarterback, or to be high enough in the draft where you get a guy like the Niners had to get Trey Lance. You just mortgage so many other assets you can use to build the rest of your team, and the Seahawks have been able to get their win with guy at that market rate, below market rate, I should say, because of John's vision for building a team.
The people around Darnold, I think that's one huge reason why this is working, right? This is a very complete, interesting, young, formidable roster. And one guy who blew up and everyone's going to talk about endlessly, let's get ahead of it, but Nicky Manwari, who is just used so interestingly on this defense, and seems to me like a mind meld between Schneider and Mike Macdonald, saying, we're going to go find the guys that fit my system. If you go look at Macdonald, in Baltimore, came from, the college ranks, relatively like you say, not a star guy, not a name guy, but maximize that defense. Those Ravens players that year played some of their best football. And then he goes to Seattle, and this has happened very quickly. And they're drafting a guy that Brady just made Nick his let's fucking go defensive rookie of the year. So that tells you something. But how are they able to find these players this quickly and make it work this methodically? It just seems like Mike Macdonald does this everywhere he goes.
Yeah, I think also on top of Mike, you got John, is his arc as a general manager and drafting early, or just drafting in general, has been really fascinating. From 2010 to 2012, he got Cam Chancellor, Russell Okung, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, Golden Tate, Russell Wilson, right? Bruce Irvin, a bunch of guys. Jeremy Lane, Byron Maxwell, all these guys who were starters on the Super Bowl team. And from 2013 to 2019, they either did not have a first-round pick or used their first-round pick on the following players: LJ Collier, Rashad Penny, Jermaine Ifedi. And then they use some of their top picks on guys like Malik McDowell, who never played for them. And so you got all these guys who were these premium assets that weren't actually giving you any return, let alone a premium return. Now let's spin it to the last 4 drafts. In the first round, Charles Cross, Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Byron Murphy II, Gray Zabel. Those are their last 5 first-round picks of the last 4 seasons. So, yes, Nicky Manwari with pick 35 in this last draft, he also is important to that. But I don't even think you got to overlook it. It's getting premium returns out of premium assets. And Nick, I think, is part of a paradigm shift to where the nickel matters more than ever. And we even see it reflected in the end of the year voting, where they've now added nickel to the All-Pro, which you can have now. They used a fifth overall pick in 2023 on a nickel and Devin Witherspoon. So they've seen the value even before Mike Macdonald got here. That was Pete's last draft. So I think Mike has just supercharged that and taken it to the next level. Having Kyle Hamilton, I think, was informative for him. Say, all right, I know what this guy did. Let me do that here with Nicky Manwari, who's kind of like the Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, Derwin James hybrid, big nickel type of guy. So I think that it's Mike's mind that has made this come to life, but also going back to John to give him a little bit more credit, he's gotten the premium returns out of premium assets, but also he was kind of early in this wave of viewing nickel as a premium. A lot of people didn't think they needed Spoon there. Remember, that was the year they went around the league and were taking selfies with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis. They were supposed to take a quarterback in the 2023 draft or take Jalen Carter because they needed an interior lineman. They pivoted and saw nickel as a premium position and took Spoon. I think that's part of their roster building journey to get here as well, and why their defense is so good. And Spoon's now made the Pro Bowl in 3 straight years, and he was second team All-Pro. There you go, proof of concept.
Fascinating team. Mike's got it covered. We're going to put you on the spot here to end it here, Mike. 3-legged Super Bowl 60 Money Mike parlay, the Olsen parlay for Super Bowl 60. What do you got for us?
Oh, this is fun. So my homie texted me one yesterday, actually. He wanted, I think, Seahawks money line, Jackson Smith-Njigba anytime touchdown, and then a Ken Walker anytime touchdown. I didn't feel great about that when he texted to me last night, but actually thinking about it a little bit more, if the Seahawks are going to win this game, which I believe they will, I would let that ride. Seahawks win the game, Jackson scores, Ken scores, and as a bonus, I think if you want to lay a little bread on a Super Bowl MVP winner, with that in mind, I think I would even lay some on Jackson Smith-Njigba, excuse me. I try not to say his full name so I don't say it wrong and get in trouble. But JSN or Jax is my is my default. Yeah, I actually intentionally don't tweet his full name either, just so I don't get autocorrected to the wrong version of his last name and mess that up. But I like him for MVP as well. Shout out to the Seahawks team reporter who mentioned his name is kind of tricky. White guy. And he's like, his name is kind of tricky. I was like, yeah, no, for me it is too. Like, I don't want to get it wrong.
I feel like the ramifications would be different between you getting it wrong and us getting it wrong though. So like,
correct.
But
I still don't want to get it wrong though. You know, I want to make sure I get his name right. But yeah, I like that as a 3-leg and as a bonus to lay some on Jax to win MVP.
I like that one a lot. Seattle to win, JSN and Walker to ring the bell. If JSN has a big game, that means that Darnold probably played well. I'd love this all to end storybook with my boy getting the Super Bowl MVP, but it's one of the great comeback stories ever. If Darnold goes from where he was to holding a Lombardi with the confetti falling down, and Shawn-Dugar is going to be there covering it if it happens. So,
and wasn't the Seeing Ghost game against the Patriots as well? I believe so, right?
Sure was. Yeah. It was a Monday Night Football game. Yep.
You can't write a better individual story arc, and I say that as a professional writer who just wrote a book. It would be tough for me to cook up something as good as Sam being as bad as he was in New York, absolutely. I don't need to keep that a secret. If they win this, another book is coming from me. I will call the publisher and say, hey, let's roll this out. I'm supposed to take paternity leave, actually. My son's 6 months. I'm supposed to take that whenever the season
don't do that,
ends.
Apparently. We've learned that this weekend.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I had my kid. Actually, it's funny. I had my daughter. I don't know if Diana or whoever reported when exactly his son was born, Kwesi.
Right.
But I had my daughter July 20th, 2023.
It was in July
before training camp started. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I had a kid same time as Kwesi, my first kid, and I didn't miss a day of training camp. So I read that and I was like, I don't know, man. You are kind of selfish, Kwesi. Like, I could be there every day. I was there every day, man. I didn't miss a day of camp. Didn't get any sleep. But I was there. Same thing when my son was born in July 30th of this year. Every day.
That's on you.
That is f***ed up. They did that to Kwesi, but yeah.
Yeah, they did him dirty. Anyway, so yes, covers for the Athletic, the Seahawks. You check out Money Mike's coverage, also the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast if you want more on this wonderful team. And of course, yes, the current book right now, the franchise, Seattle Seahawks. Get that at barnesandnoble.com or anywhere where you get your books. And they are 60 minutes away from a follow-up Dugar book, and that's what we're rooting for. So thank you, buddy, for joining us during a very busy week, and you are the man, OG of HTC.
Oh, thank you. Come on now. Anytime for you guys. Like I said, I'm making time for the homies to start the week. So of course.
Feels good to be a homie of MSD. Stay right there. Take a break, and we'll be right back.
Finding a doctor you actually like feels like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone in-network, nearby, and with open appointments, but that's just the baseline. You also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, calms your nerves, tells you it's going to be okay, maybe even still gives you a lollipop, even though you're a full-grown adult, Dan.
Oh, yeah, Mark. And guess what? The dream doctor does exist, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states. Whether you need primary care, dental, dermatology, eye care, or one of 200-plus specialties, you can search by specialty or symptom and build the care team that's right for you.
Absolutely, Dan. You can book in-person visits or video visits, read thousands of verified patient reviews, see real-time availability, and book instantly. No phone tag. Appointments typically happen within 24 to 72 hours, and sometimes even the same day. Dan and I use ZocDoc, and you should too.
Absolutely. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/heed to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/heed. ZocDoc.com/heed. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message.
Hi, this is Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst, certified financial planner, and the host of the Jill on Money podcast. With the new year upon us, there's no better time to take control of your financial life. And the Jill on Money podcast is here to help. It's your questions that make it possible for me to provide unconventional and, I hope, entertaining insights on your money and, more importantly, on your life. Follow and listen to Jill on Money wherever you get your podcasts.
With the big game coming up, I've been spending a little time checking out Webull, which you might know as an investment app. Webull is an investment app I've used for years, and they've recently rolled out sports event contracts, which are part of their prediction markets just in time for the big game.
Yeah, if event contracts are new to you, the easiest way to think about them is trading on clearly defined outcomes rather than traditional betting. There are no fixed odds. Instead, the price reflects how likely the market believes that outcome is at any given moment. Each contract settles at $1 if the outcome happens, or $0 if it doesn't. And those prices can change in real time as new information comes in. Injuries, in-game momentum, coaching decisions, all the same stuff we're already talking about every week on this show. So if you're someone who's constantly thinking about game flow, matchups, and probabilities, it's interesting to see how a market reacts to that same football information in real time, Dan.
That's right, Mark. All of this happens on Webull's platform, which operates as a registered futures commission merchant, meaning these contracts trade in a regulated environment. If you're curious to explore it, you could download the Webull app by heading to webull.com/K/heedthecallpod. That link is also in the pod description and gets you a $5 voucher. Once you're in the app, just go to predictions, tap sports, pick the league you're interested in, and you could view the available event contracts there. And around the big game, Webull is offering $0 in commission on all trades for big game related event contracts. That means no commission on the executed trade, though exchange fees still apply. So claim your $5 voucher and step into the big game with Webull by heading to webull.com/K/heedthecallpod.
That's webull.com/K/heedthecallpod. As always, this is speculative and not for everyone, but if you already follow the NFL closely and like to think in probabilities, it's another way to observe how markets process the game in real time.
All right, we are back, and now we welcome back to the show at the beginning of Super Bowl week, the great Andrew Marchand, the Athletic's senior writer covering sports and media. He's also the host of the Marchand Sports Media podcast. Check that out. And we have so much to talk about with Andrew. What's up, buddy? Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me in San Fran. I took a Waymo, so I am technologically advanced. Yeah, no driver.
You know, I was like not early adopter, but unwitting crash test dummy for Waymo in Austin, Texas last spring. And the reason I knew that we were kind of in the early stages of the rollout in that city was there were people taking photos of us in the car as we were in the back seat. And it was very alarming to know that like, oh, so this isn't something that's going on in the city yet. So but I'm glad you made it out.
My brother, he did. I let him do the maiden voyage. He's in Austin too. So he did it a few times. So he told me it was good. So I trusted him.
You know, there's someone somewhere with a switch, like a master switch, that when they pull that, these beautiful new driverless cars are going to turn on the human race. Like, I'm just waiting for it to occur. So.
If you're going to go, that's not the worst way.
No, it might actually be the worst way. Like, if I had to make a list.
You're right. You know what?
It's like slightly below, like, Shark Attack, maybe? All right. Let's get into it. I want to start, if we can, Andrew. Great piece up there on The Athletic. Check it out right now about Mike Tirico. And I was surprised to learn this, but this is actually his first Super Bowl in the NBC booth, obviously. And great quote in this piece. And I'll read it right now from the NBC's EP of NFL, Fred Gaudelli. Getting Mike Tirico from ESPN is one of the greatest heists in the history of our business. And Andrew, can you explain to our audience that hasn't yet read the piece why Fred would make such a comment?
Yeah, first off, when he said it to me, as Conor would know, you're in your brain, you're like, ding, 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 ding. There's a money quote.
Nailed it.
So yeah, in 2016, Tirico left ESPN. At that point, he was the play-by-player for Monday Night Football with John Gruden, and it was pretty well received. I mean, it wasn't, people had issues with Gruden, but not really Tirico. The way contracts work for these big time broadcasters is usually about 6 months out. You're legally allowed to talk to other entities. And generally speaking, with someone like Tirico, if you're ESPN, you want to get him signed before. And they did not. It opened the window, and NBC stood there and said, we got Bob Costas, who doesn't want to do the Olympics forever. We got Al Michaels, who's still great, but is getting older. And how can we fill these positions? Well, they recognized Tirico could do both, and they were able to bring him on. He was supposed to get the NFL a little bit earlier, I think. That's what he said. And behind the scenes, I've written about this before, that Al tried to stay at NBC, talked to a few people to try to remain at NBC. His last Super Bowl, he was, it was kind of noticeable that there wasn't really a send off for Al Michaels. Tirico took over. He'd taken over the Olympics a little bit earlier from Costas, who moved on from that role. And so this is Tirico. It's Tirico time. He's going to be the lead play-by-player on the Super Bowl, and then he's going to fly to Italy, and from Milan and Cortina, he will be the host of the Olympics. That's never been done before.
Do you sense that there was ever a regret from ESPN, Andrew? Because it's like one of those things where they kind of went through a dark period after that of MNF, and then having to come out the other side with Buck and Aikman just to revive the product. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, the other part of the story that I wrote about, it changed broadcasting. Tirico's moved to ESPN. ESPN could never find a good enough booth. Sean McDonough and John Gruden didn't mesh. Tessitore, Booger, and Witten. Do I have to say more? That was not good. And Steve Lee, and you had Booger on the crane, which wasn't Booger's fault. I always feel bad because Booger's a great guy. I always feel you always have to say the Boogermobile as if he had anything to do with it. They told me
I noticed, Andrew, in your piece, you didn't say Boogermobile, and I wondered why, but it was almost more savage to say, then they made the decision to put McFarlane on a crane. And I was like, that actually sounds worse than Boogermobile.
I mean, I've written so much about something, I kind of sometimes I get on some issues. That one, from the start, I was sort of like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me. Can you explain it? And there never really was a good explanation. And then it lived up to what we thought. And then Steve Levy, great guy, great host, not an A play-by-player with Brian Greasy, Louis Riddick. That doesn't sound like a top team when you're talking about, now we got Aikman, Brady, and Romo and big names like that. So, and the NFL, they didn't like it. They're not going to say it publicly, but they didn't like it. The relationship, John Skipper was the president of ESPN at that point, who I talked to for the story. The relationship between the NFL and ESPN, even though they're giving him a couple $1 billion a year, was not good. Jimmy Pitaro comes in, ends up signing the man, tries for Romo, ends up getting the Mannings, getting Buck and Aikman. Those indirectly, Romo's contract comes, and then Tom Brady. So there's a big butterfly effect by Tirico leaving in 2016.
And I love this TV stuff, and it goes across all the different categories, because Tirico making that decision, he was set up really well with ESPN. John Skipper in your article made the point about, there are a lot of things that conspired, and kind of like all the tentacles of ESPN got in the way of them messing up that negotiating window that they could have had exclusively. But also for Tirico, it was a risk, because it did make me think about it as I was reading the piece, like Conan as an example. When the Tonight Show was promised to Conan, and then several years later, when it's time for Jay Leno to hand over the reins, it didn't quite work out that way. And I think about Mark, your boy Costas, who was
much maligned on this show.
Well, the modern day Costas, but back then, he went 20 years, I feel like, between baseball, where he was just off the grid because NBC lost the baseball rights, and then he was not connected to the sport, which he was the best at. So Tirico, if fate worked out differently, he could have gotten banged, but he didn't. In fact, it's the best case scenario, and we all win. Ceci, on another topic, go ahead, I'll tee you up on a broadcaster whose careers kind of went in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, Tirico considered so consistent, and then you had Tony Romo hit the scene, and it was like, we've found our Messiah. He's doing everything we've wanted an ex-quarterback to come in and do. And obviously, one of the biggest media crescendos of the year is Tony Romo operating as like a 200-foot radioactive tower each week. And like, you've got thousands of people commenting on like kind of what happened to Tony Romo and why is he making strange guttural sounds and kind of fading away at times. Still, then he's there, then he's not. It just sort of was like a mysterious what happened to Tony Romo from the good old days. I guess I would ask you, because everyone heard the noise. I mean, I've seen interviews where I thought Tony Romo was very upfront saying he's heard the noise, but he's going to attack it and go after his job the way that he feels he should. I kind of like that. But CBS, what does CBS do about this in a big offseason where people are pondering, should Romo be slipped out for J.J. Watt or someone else, or changes be made? Can CBS even do anything about it?
It's going to be difficult. He has 4 years and $72 million remaining on his contract. So if you're the president of CBS Sports, David Burston,
sorry, Andrew.
Are you going to go to your bosses and say, hey, we'd like a do-over, and then we're going to have to pay J.J. Watt? He's not going to do it for cheaply. You got to probably at least go 10 to 12 million. Yeah, it's not a great situation. Romo had a reputation as a player for maybe not studying as hard as other quarterbacks. I think when he first got off the field, he did study, of course, so he knew he could look at the defenses and really understand things. I think it's also the relationship and the dynamic between Nance and Romo doesn't really work. To me, I've said this before, it's like an uncle going to a game with his nephew who he doesn't really understand. I do think Romo says some things that, like, there was a AFC Championship game, there was a illegal touching penalty, and Romo said it in a way where he said illegal touching. Again, it's a tough thing to comment on, but if he was with someone like Ian Eagle, does Ian Eagle say, hey, there's children watching at home, or something where you get a little humor and makes Romo a little bit more likable? He says it to Nance, and it just kind of hangs out there. Right. And because it's like the uncle, like, I don't know how to react. Hello, friends. So I think that's also an issue. But it's been pretty, because I was writing how good Romo was the first 3 years. Now I kept it in perspective. I didn't say he's the greatest ever, that he was definitely, you got to see it for an extended period of time. And they gave him a 10-year deal. I mean, the money's the money, but the 10 years to me was the one, when I reported that initially, the money was crazy. Don't get me wrong. Because I was reporting a lot about it and it kept going up and up and up. But then when I heard 18 a year in total value per season in 10 years, 10 years is like, that's a long time.
You mentioned, there was always the idea that ESPN or the NFL couldn't stomach the kind of middling booths that ESPN kept throwing out for Monday Night Football, and their hand was kind of forced to go to Buck and Aikman. Is the Romo situation, is this more of an us creation, or do you see that getting to a point where the NFL is like, this guy can't be calling the AFC Championship game? This is ridiculous.
Well, the numbers say it doesn't matter. The numbers, the AFC Championship game did better than the NFC Championship game with Nance and Romo on it. CBS had a banner year in terms of ratings. Now, they can point to that. But the problem is, you're the ones who gave me $18 million. So you're saying that position's worth a lot of money. Now, right. Again, if you read that column that I've written about a million times about the fact that Monday Night Football had issues, and so they were going to offer Romo $15 million, which the ironic thing is, if Romo had gone to Monday Night Football and this is what happened, everyone would be blaming ESPN, saying they ruined Tony Romo, which would not have been really fair because, it seems like he's gone backwards at CBS. So, look, does the NFL will tell you, no, we don't pay attention. They're such, they're not that, they don't get that invested in things. We know that they are, when they don't like something, they make it known, as you guys maybe know. So with the Romo, that situation, if I'm CBS, here's the thing. In 2 years, we're going to be talking, it's going to be the CBS Super Bowl. If Nance and Romo are where they are now or get worse, are you going to feel confident that 130 million people are going to watch a game and your broadcasters are Jim Nance and Tony Romo? That's something, if I'm David Burson, I'm thinking about long and hard. And do I tear some Band-Aids? Do I add J.J. Watt? Do I see if I can put Romo, maybe you put him on the second team with Ian Eagle, or maybe you push Ian Eagle with Romo on the number 1 team, because Romo would be better with Ian Eagle. That's definite. But
you can't demote Nance, right? So,
in theory, you can't. But Ian Eagle's a better play-by-player than Jim Nance. That's if you're listening to it's Jim Nance, and he's had a tremendous career. He's a legendary broadcaster, especially on golf. But I would argue on football and previously on basketball, not a great play-by-player. The calls sometimes are really weird, like the things that he focuses on. Like there was a Hardman touchdown in the AFC Championship game. He's like, just like the Super Bowl. And it's like, no, that wasn't the call. Maybe later you could say it was a similar route to the Super Bowl, winning play, but it's like, that's not the call there. So he just kind of, and the dynamic is not there. He's just not a true play-by-player on football. It's just
Could Nance ever go to this sounds a little wild, but like to the studio?
Yeah, that's one theory. You try to put your hat on and say what I doubt it, but that is one. Yeah, well, no, if you put Nance as James Brown a few years ago, they were going to move on and have Nate Burleson be the host. He's been around a long time. James Brown doesn't have to go anywhere. But if you put Nance back in the studio, you kind of save some face. He's the host. He's doing what he's actually better at, is hosting. And you kind of could say, well, look, you're going to host the Super Bowl. You're hosting NFL Today, full circle. I don't know. There's ego and politics. The NFL, especially the big time announcers, they can get involved with ownership where there's relationships. So it gets a little complicated. And then the money aspect. So it's a difficult spot for David Burson. And
there's ego involved. Now that is an update for me.
The uncle-nephew dynamic. I almost saw like the inflection point maybe in the whole Romo drama was that the open to the divisional or the wild card round game between the Jaguars and Bills, and I'll just grab the final line of it. This could be a major upset, even though it's not an upset because the Bills are actually the underdog, but they're the overdogs. We'll see today. I want you to, if you can, go back and zoom in on Jim Nance's face as Romo landed that plane without the wheels on it.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And that's on Romo 100% because, like, what are you talking about?
No, and whenever there's like 2 awful announcing articles on your performance by the end of that game, it's usually a bad sign, and then Andrew writes about it as well. Finally, let's go on the other side of the spectrum because you also wrote about this. Tom Brady. A little bit of a rocky first year, and he kind of seemed like he figured it out in year 2, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I talked to Brady for about a half an hour about what he changed. The first year, too much information. He told me that he could read his notes before a game, and it would be more than the 3 hours of the game time. And so this year, he studied more like a quarterback. It makes sense when you think about it. I mean, when you pay Tom Brady $375 million on a 10-year deal, you want Tom Brady. We want to get inside the head of the man considered the greatest player in NFL history, not hear him, read opinions during the week and try to recite stats. So there's a comfort level that it's the going into, besides doing a podcast, the hardest thing in sports media is to be in a booth. I'm joking about that. But it actually is very difficult to be in a booth. These guys always think about when their whole life, they're thinking about playing in the Super Bowl, not calling the Super Bowl. So just the mechanics of it all. He's lucky he has Kevin Burkhardt, gives him a lot of room. Kevin Burkhardt's superpowers, he's a great guy and just can make relationships with anybody. And he doesn't care if you're Tom Brady or someone who's not as high up as Tom Brady. But Brady said something really nice about Burkhardt. He said he's as good a teammate as he's had in his whole career. And so that's a pretty high compliment. And he's been better. I mean, he got it. And the thing about Brady is he's worked at it. And I think he told me he's going to continue to, work on his preparation. And the other thing about it that's really important, really, really important, is when you listen to Burkhardt and Brady, we're all there voluntarily. We all want to watch. We love the NFL, but we don't have to watch. And obviously there's tens of millions who watch these games. Brady and Burkhardt, you could tell they want to be there and they enjoy each other. And that's kind of number one on the don't annoy, which I know is not a nice thing to say, but that's number one. Don't annoy us with, just being too much. Number 2, though, is you got to want to be, we're just hanging with you. And so you got to want to hang with these people for 3 hours. And whatever you think of Tom, obviously Tom Brady's great. Some people love him, some people hate him, depending on their rooting interest, etc. But hanging out with Tom Brady for 3 hours watching a football game where he's pointing out some things is a pretty cool experience. And so I think they really nailed that this year, the joy of watching football. And I think that was really important.
I mean, it's like we kept doing the Joe Montana comp, or maybe any one of these like all-time NFL great pantheon players that just were not good in booths. And for a while, it seemed like maybe Greg Olsen was going to usurp Tom Brady. If you're Fox now, is just one of those things where it's like, hey, this is a great problem where our number 2 is as good of a number 1 as most of the other networks have, or what do they end up doing with Olsen, who's got star power in his own right?
Yeah, I mean, Olsen's big problem is he's not the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, that's his issue.
Haunts us all.
Yeah, he had a tremendous career. He's borderline, I think he's like borderline Hall of Famer, where you can consider. I don't think he won't get in, but he had a tremendous career, great college career. So, nothing to be ashamed of. But, you look at the positions, and I've said this a lot of times about Greg Olsen. The guys who are considered for these spots are the all-time quarterbacks. We talked about the Mannings and what they get to do, work from home, and pick their schedule basically. So that's a pretty good deal for Brady-type money. Tom Brady, Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, Chris Collinsworth, he's kind of grandfathered in because he did it a long time and built his way up. And that's what Greg Olsen is doing. So to be considered, he's still in his 30s. And there's a long way to go, and there will be, there's not a definite that he'll get number 1 spots when they open up, because you have, Sean McVay possibly coming out, Travis Kelce. I think Mike Tomlin, if he does it's more likely going to be in the studio, but you have a lot of competition. You have JJ Watt. It's not, and there's only one job, there's no silver medals for any of these positions. So you got to get the gold. And so Olsen may not get that chance, but if he does that, maybe he'll go into coaching, go do well as a coach, and come back and he'll be, considered at that level as well. So, but yeah, on air is part of the equation. It's just not all of the equation in terms of what, networks are looking for.
And just to like kind of close on this one, Andrew, I'm thinking about the landscape. So I'm not sure, I'm sure when Olsen's contract is up, but Collinsworth, I just looked it up. He's 67. The other big chair is Al, obviously, at TNF, but that's play-by-play. But Herb Street, he kind of calls those games like he's thinking about college football Saturday already. So I wonder if we see Olsen eventually matriculate to either the Amazon side or even NBC. Is that possible, you think?
Yeah, so NBC, I reported, they've already re-upped Collinsworth, so he's going to go through that next cycle, so he'll get the next Super Bowl. Now, could that be it? But that's still 4 years away. The Amazon one's more interesting. I think Al, very good chance this could be his final season, although I'm not sure he'll go so easily. We'll see. And then Herb Street, this is his final year of his contract. So that's the spot sort of you can look at, I believe. And so Olsen could get it. Watt could get it. Sean McVay is a name to watch if he were to stop coaching. He's out there in LA, some relationships already. And then I said JJ Watt. There's somebody else. Travis Kelce. So that's another name to watch. And he wants to do games, Kelce. They all see the money. I mean, they see the $37.5 million. And so, I don't think he's getting that, but if, and you have to decide, can he do it? Because it's not just a guarantee everyone can do it. It's a skill level. And when you're making it, we talked about Monday Night Football. I mean, the issue for those groupings, besides not having the pedigree that we're talking about in terms of their playing careers, it's also you're doing it in front of huge audiences. You're not like JJ Watt, I would say, is advantageous if he eventually becomes a number 1, or Olsen the same way. He had a year to be a number 2 where you still have a spotlight, but not as big a spotlight to get really good. And then when you get that top perch, you're ready to go.
That would also interfere with Kelsey's podcast, so I'm sure he wouldn't go that route.
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you guys know how difficult it is. I do a podcast, you do a podcast. Yeah, but we know it's one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Right. Exactly. For us, it is. Andrew Marchand, the Athletic senior writer covering sports and media, host of the Marchand Sports Media podcast. I imagine he's got some banger he's going to drop in terms of a Woj bomb. What do you call it? An Andrew bomb? I don't know. We could work on that this week at the Super Bowl, so everybody stay tuned for that potentially. Anything else to point out, Andrew, that you got going on?
No, that's it. I got some Olympic stories, but the Tirico story. I appreciate you guys as always.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
Andrew Marchand.
Thanks, Andrew.
There he goes. Andrew Marchand, always a joy. And we love that stuff. We love how the sausage gets made on the media end of things. One thing we didn't really have the window there, but now we do, Connor. So much praise heaped upon Tom Brady. Have you come around on Brady as a broadcaster in year two? I know you were a staunch critic during his rookie season. You were not alone, of course.
No doubt. I mean, even when I wrote about the NFL and specifically coaches' feelings on him being in broadcast meetings, I made it a point to say that, like, he has been excellent this year. And the points that he's made, I mean, this is exactly what we wanted out of Tom Brady. And I think that the one complicating factor just remains that, he just hired a head coach. He has early access to all of these meetings and these people. And so I think that that's still a rub for me, but it's undeniable how good he's gotten in the booth.
Perhaps it's balanced out, though, by Mark Davis. So, like, that advantage is mitigated by his boss at the end of the day.
You could see that being the case. I mean, I guess the question is, like, what if Brady incrementally gets that much better next season? Because he's one of the more obsessive Americans we've ever encountered. Like, you can't think he's just going to rest on his laurels. He did seem to have a weekend this weekend that was a little bit of a, what was going on there, Dan?
Yeah, throw that up.
Yeah, I want to talk about this.
Firing up an old thirst trap in a big spot.
We've all been in this mood, and I know a lot of people, this is Tom Brady on his probably $4,000 couch or love seat of some sort.
Do you think his couch is only $4,000?
I don't know how much couches cost for the most part. So am I lowballing that?
Oh, the Earthlings, we go to a store and we value shop and we look for the right choice and then we make it, yes.
I don't think mine was more than that, but I've got an L-shaped couch that you can move the parts around and stuff.
Well, I don't know why I'm surprised that you have a couch.
I think that you seem to think I live in like an East Side crack den or something.
No. I don't think
it's a fully
that at all.
furnished apartment with,
for some reason, I'm picturing you just like standing in the middle of like an unfurnished apartment watching like Monday Night Football.
Well, I don't live I live with a female, so like don't just not have a couch. You get the couches, you
not
get the
the
coffee
warmest
tables.
Description of your partner.
Well, I don't want
to with female
in this little world here. I'll keep it plain and simple, but like
different DNA structure.
No, our place is. Come on over. You're all welcome to come on over and check it out.
I've been there and I've hung out. And I've stared out over your balcony and had a great time doing it. And we should do it again soon.
We shall.
We've talked about that. Sessy and Zeus are overdue for a in-person hang here in this urban sprawl of Los Angeles. People don't realize that when you live
we are in different
sea,
towns,
as I do, and then Sessy's living in Hollywood. It almost feels like you're separated by, thousands of miles, and yet we're not. So we're going to work on that. But we don't have time for that right now because it's Super Bowl week. What the f***? We have stuff to do. So good start to the week. We have thank you to Michael-Shawn-Dugar. Thank you, of course, to Andrew Marchand. Coming up, we are going to have Chad Graff of The Athletic to talk about the Patriots side of things. Fair and balanced. That's what we do. We're going to have Brian Baldinger later in the week, maybe some other special guests. So we got this whole game and week covered. So be there for all of it. And until next time, do what you must. Heed the call.
Are you really buying a car online on AutoTrader right now?
Really, I can get super specific with dealer listings and see cars based on my budget.
Mom! You can really have it delivered.
Or pick it up.
Mommy, look! I think your kid is walking up the slide.
Really? AutoTrader. Buy your car online. Really?
You know those $4 prebiotic sodas everyone's drinking? They're basically expensive sugar water for most people. Here's why. Prebiotics feed the good bacteria in your gut. But if your gut doesn't have enough good bacteria, those prebiotics are feeding, well, nothing. Hi, I'm Tina, co-founder of Just Thrive Probiotic. When my family struggled with digestive issues, I discovered something shocking. Most probiotics can't survive your stomach acid. They die before reaching your gut, which means your prebiotics have nothing to fuel. Just Thrive is different. It's the only probiotic clinically proven to arrive 100% alive in your gut. When your gut finally has living, thriving probiotics, that means real relief from gas and bloating, healthy immunity, better sleep, clear skin, and the energy to crush your goals. Plus, Just Thrive comes as a capsule or gummy with a lifetime money-back guarantee. Visit justthrivehealth.com/podcast and use code POD20 for 20% off.